Rate limit exceeded Twitter meaning is when a user's account has exceeded a certain predetermined limit when trying to access the Twitter API. It usually occurs when a user tries to do too many transactions too quickly, such as sending direct messages, accessing their timeline, or using an application that accesses the Twitter API. This error is usually sent to the user as a notification when it is triggered. It usually happens when the user has sent too many requests in a certain period of time, so Twitter automatically puts a limit on their data usage. Twitter has a number of limits when it comes to accessing their API, such as how many direct messages, tweets, or timeline accesses a user can make in a certain amount of time. If the user exceeds this limit, they will be restricted from making any more calls to the API. This error is usually temporary and the user can try again later when the rate limit has been reset. Users can view their current rate limit status on their Twitter settings page. Some users may be exempt from the rate limit, such as those who have verified their accounts or have been invited to beta test new features. When a rate limit is exceeded, there are usually two possible solutions: wait for the rate limit to reset or take steps to reduce the rate of data usage. Many applications that access the Twitter API will be designed to account for rate limit exceeded errors, so they can be configured to retry the operation after a certain amount of time. For users who are manually trying to access the Twitter API, it is important to exercise some caution and make sure to properly rate limit requests so that the rate limit is not exceeded. This requires requesting data from the API at a steady rate and not making too many requests too quickly. The amount of time it takes for the rate limit to reset can vary depending on the type of request being made and how much the user has exceeded the limit. It is important to factor in this time when planning out a strategy for accessing the Twitter API. If the rate limit is exceeded multiple times, it may be necessary to add extra measures to ensure that the limit is not exceeded again in the future. For users who are automatically accessing the API, it is important to add rate limiting logic to the client code to ensure that the rate limit is not exceeded. This can be done by making sure that request calls are spread out over a certain amount of time, instead of sending them all in a single burst. It is important to note that Twitter's rate limits can change at any time, so users should check their settings periodically to make sure that they are still within the limits. Excessive rate limit violations can potentially lead to IP blocks or other forms of punishment, so it is important to be careful when accessing the Twitter API. Rate limit exceeded Twitter meaning is it is when a user exceeds the predefined threshold for data usage on the Twitter API. This usually occurs when the user is trying to perform too many operations too quickly, which can lead to a rate limit error. Users will need to either wait for the rate limit to reset or take steps to reduce their data usage if they want to continue using the API. Applications that access the Twitter API should be designed to account for this error, while users manually accessing the API should try and exercise some caution. Rate limit violations can potentially lead to IP blocks or other forms of punishment, so it is important to be careful when accessing the API.